villainous crimes we give life to. If these Queensbridge kids don't like you.
Hello, and welcome back. This time we got a mock draft up for y'all. So much shit has happened. Michigan won the national championship. If Washington won, I probably would have made a whole video about it, but Michigan won, so I'm kind of bummed out about that. Congrats to Michigan nonetheless. I mean, there's a lot of people to be happy for. I'm really happy that Blake Corum capped off his historic college career with a championship. Mikey Sanders still, I fuck with him. He's one of my favorite defensive players in the country. I'm happy that pick he got in the game reminded me of the Ringo shit from 2 years ago. I'm happy that Harbaugh finally got his ring. He deserved it. One of the best coaches in all of football, not just at the college level. So there are a few things I'm happy about, but man, I would have loved Washington to win that so bad, man. But it is what it is. What are you gonna do? It's football. People win, people lose. Nick Saban retired the day I'm recording this. My Seahawks coach Pete Carroll retired as soon as I'm recording this. Man, it's so much has happened. But here we are doing a goddamn mock draft. Hopefully, I can tie a little bit of everything into this one. Um, so oh shit, wrong one. One second. Wrong screen. Okay. So let's get right into it, man. It's been a couple weeks since I did my last mock drafts. The draft order, just look, I mean, the draft order is so different than the last one we did. So let's get right into it, man. Starting off, I'm just gonna break down every possible scenario here. This is going to be with trades as well. So the first pick, it is my opinion. It is the opinion of the majority of the Bears fan base. It is the opinion of the players on the Chicago Bears that Justin Fields should be the quarterback next year. I think since coming back from injury, he looked like an entirely different player. And that's not to say that against the Broncos and the Commanders, for example, he wasn't playing very, very well. Justin Fields had a lot of games this year where he looked like a great quarterback. He also had a lot of moments where he didn't. You know, he's still a young player with a poor O line and no receivers besides DJ Moore. So Chicago, with having the number one pick, they are a team who has already shown us 1 year ago they're willing to trade the number one pick. And if they didn't think that Bryce Young last year was good enough to replace Fields with, after Fields just put together, in my opinion, the best year of his career, do they really think that Caleb is good enough to replace Fields? Like it just, it doesn't really make sense for me for the Bears to keep this pick for any reason, especially when you can trade this pick and acquire multiple, probably three first-round picks in return, and possibly build a damn good team around Justin Fields. Now the question becomes, what team trades up to number one? It would have to be a team who wants either Caleb or Drake May, who does not think that they're going to be able to get those guys at whatever pick they're at currently. That includes the Giants, the Falcons, the Raiders. But I already had all three of those teams trading up before. I'm not going to do the Vikings trading up because that's in division. That doesn't make much sense. So I'm gonna have the Broncos for the first time trading up for the number one pick. In reality, it would probably be three first round picks. I can't go 3 years in the future on this website, so we're going to do two first, 2 seconds, but in theory, it'd probably be about three first round picks. Force the trade, start the draft. The Broncos obviously got rid of Russ. Sean Payton, I think the best fit for the Broncos honestly would be a guy like Kirk Cousins. Stay in the pocket, get the ball out quickly, read the defense, quick decisions. You know what I'm saying? He seems like the perfect fit. I don't think that Sean Payton wants to develop a young quarterback. Maybe he does. Maybe he wants to get a guy in there, not pay them a whole lot of money so he can kind of offset the eventual Russ buyout. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I think it's going to be Caleb Williams. Drake made Caleb. I don't think Drake honestly did enough last season to separate. If Drake would have had a type of season like he had last year, then I think there would be a real discussion about Drake May possibly being the number one pick. But I think Caleb, he still showed enough last year. You know, just because USC didn't do as good as people thought they would, Caleb still balled out. It was one of the best offenses in the country. We know what Caleb is at this point. People are weirdly trying to discredit him all of a sudden, calling him a bust, things like that. But I still think he's easily a generational talent, number one overall pick worthy. Commanders at number two. This is a team who, at one point, they were like, what? They were like 5, 6, 7. but then they just kept losing. And not only were they losing, Sam Howell played so poorly, got benched multiple times, ended up leading the league in interceptions, over 20. So I don't think Sam Howell's the guy. I don't think they believe in him. They fired Ron Rivera, got a new head coach coming in. Certainly, a new head coach would want to start with a new young quarterback. I think the guy's going to be Drake May, another UNC guy, but uh, what do I think about Drake May in Washington? They got to rebuild that offensive line. Whoever is behind that O line is going to get killed. Um, you just hope Drake May can utilize guys like Terry McLaurin, like Curtis Samuel, like Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, guys like that. You just hope that he can get the ball out quickly, use his legs, escape the pocket. He's a very mobile guy. And I think he's a great player, but Washington is just really a rough situation right now. A lot of instability. The defense is getting worse. It's eroding away, trading away a lot of their best players. They're in the dark times right now. And hopefully a guy like Drake May could turn them around like CJ Stroud did for the Texans this year, but I'm just not so sure if for Drake May personally, if he would work out with the Commanders. The Patriots are an even worse situation. Bill was gone. Offense is non-existent. It's just, what do you do here if you're the Patriots? Well, I think it has to be a quarterback, unless you went after a guy like Russ or Kirk Cousins or something like that. But does it even make sense at that point? I feel like you want to start over. Mac Jones coming back, I don't really see that as an option. Maybe you take Marv and just say, if we give Mac a number one receiver, he gets better. But I feel like the bridge is burned as far as Mac Jones returning. So I think it has to be a quarterback, and that leaves Jaden Daniels. Do I think Jane Daniels is a top 3 caliber pick? No, I don't. But I do think he's a top 10 guy. And if then you could make the argument, well, this guy's a top 10 player, a team in the top 3 desperately needs a quarterback. It's not really a reach at that point, I wouldn't say. The problem is for Jane Daniels going to New England, I think that's honestly the worst destination. The worst place that any young quarterback could go is the Patriots, in my opinion. You don't know what's going to happen at head coach. Hopefully, for the Patriots' sake, it's a guy like Mike Vrabel. But it's an extremely cold environment. A guy like Jaden Daniels playing in the SEC down south, it's going to be a tough adjustment. Hopefully, being able to use his legs is going to be his biggest weapon in the NFL. But he's developed significantly as a passer. That's what has made him into not only the Heisman, but I think a projected top 10 pick. I think he is going to go in the top 5 at this point. There's so many QB needy teams. I just think all it takes is one of them to fall in love with Jaden Daniels. He's a top 5 pick, no doubt. So Patriots, they're in desperate need of a quarterback. Jaden Daniels is the best option there. Cardinals, what a situation for the Cardinals here. They were like the number 2 pick for the whole year, right? Preseason, everybody was thinking they're going to be the number 1 pick, but they end up at 4 because they won some games at the end. But you still get your guy. You still get Marvin Harrison at number 4. It's amazing. And now the Cardinals receiving core, you wouldn't think, right? Because you got Hollywood Brown, you got Greg Dortch, you got Rondale Moore. Uh, but all those guys, I don't really think any of them have shown me something that say the Cardinals are going to want any of these guys there long term. I think guys like Michael Wilson and Trey McBride and James Conner can all be there long term, but I think you need a real number 1 outside. So I think Marv's that guy. He's the best receiver prospect I think I've ever seen in my last 10 years of paying attention to football. So he's a flawless prospect. His ability to make the difficult catches. A lot of guys, they need a lot of help from the quarterback, obviously, like any receiver does. But Marv, he makes the quarterback look good. You can just throw in his general vicinity, his amazing body control, agility, ridiculous size, speed combination. He's just the perfect prospect, and he's going to go the first receiver off the board. If this wasn't such a quarterback heavy class, he could easily be the first overall pick in a lot of classes. Chargers at 5. This is an interesting one. In the past, I've given them Brock Bowers, but they weren't a top 5 team at that point. You could argue that they could use some help at offensive line, take a tackle here to help protect Justin Herbert, but I think Chargers new head coach coming in, possibly a new GM, I'm not sure. I think it is a new GM, but I think the opportunity here to acquire assets for a team looking to trade up for one of these tackles is too enticing. Now, you may see a team trading up for one of these 2 tackles. What do you mean? Well, look at the 2 teams ahead of the Chargers here. You got the Giants and the Titans behind the Chargers, I should say. Both of these teams are almost certainly going to be looking to draft a tackle. If you're the Chargers here, you may say, yeah, Brock Bowers is cool, but if we can get an extra first round pick in the process of this, that's very interesting. I would say a team like the Jets, who is possibly more desperate than anybody, with Aaron Rodgers coming back, they need help at O-line. They're one of the worst in the league. They need to protect 50-year-old Aaron Rodgers. They are in desperate need of a tackle. They cannot let the Giants and Titans take both the top two guys off the board. So I think the Jets would be willing to trade up with the Chargers, give them their first pick, and give them a first round pick next year to move up just 5 spots. I get it, but they need a tackle in the worst way. So the Jets trade up to 5. Let's say they take Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. I've talked about Joe Alt, the offensive line. I'll say it's pretty boring. But once you know about a guy, there's not many developments in that guy. People aren't like Caleb Williams and all of a sudden calling, "Oh, Joe Alt's going to be a bust." No, Joe Alt's going to be a top 10 pick without a shadow of a doubt, and I think he's going to be a very good player. The Giants here, the Danny DeVito experiment failed. Tyrod Taylor is not the answer. Is Daniel Jones the answer? Look, Daniel Jones was very, very good last season. He took him to the playoffs. He won a playoff game in which he played very well. The offensive line sucked this year. Um, Darren Waller wasn't healthy. The receiving core still was not up to par. I think in this situation, if you would have told me Daniels, uh, fucking CJ, or sorry, if you would have told me Daniels, Caleb, or Drake May's available, yeah, if I'm the Giants, I'm probably taking one of those guys. But they're not available. What do? It has to be offensive line. You have to protect what you got. Even if you don't love what you got, you have to do a better job of keeping them upright. And that's going to be Olu Fashanu. Could have been a top 10 pick last year, decided to come back for some reason to Penn State. They weren't too good this year, but he is going to be a top 10 pick. Same as Joe Alt. They're both incredible players. I mean, in other classes, both these guys could probably be top 3 picks, but quarterback heavy class, they get pushed a little bit further down. Both these guys going to New York 5 and 6 respectively. Titans at 7. Well, you kind of got screwed if you're the Titans. You have to protect Will Levis, but nobody on the board at 7 I think is worth the value. But with DeAndre Hopkins leaving, presumably, new head coach, you need a receiver. Treylon Burks, 2 years is enough time. I think he's a bust. First round pick, not even close. The production is just not there. They need a number one receiver. Malik Neighbors is that guy. I was tempted by Brock Bowers, but they already have Chigo Okonkwo. Uh, I think they just need a number one receiver on the outside. They got guys like Chris Moore. Chris Moore was like their second leading receiver this year, guys. That's just embarrassing. No disrespect to Chris Moore. Okay, I'm sure he's a great guy, but they need a number one receiver. With D Hop almost certainly leaving, Malik Neighbors could fill in there, and if he builds a connection with Will Levis, that could be a dangerous duo for a long, long time. Falcons at 8. This is a tough spot for the Falcons. I'll tell you why. They need a quarterback desperately. Now, I actually think the Falcons are in a really, really good position to just say, you know what? We'll draft the best player available, offense or defense, probably defensive line, I feel like, if they were to stick and pick right here. And let's go get Russell Wilson. Let's go get Kirk Cousins. Let's go get a guy. Let's not waste our time drafting somebody, developing him. We got a team that's good enough to win right now. And I think the Falcons do, especially offensively. They just fired Arthur Smith. Get the right guy back in there. I think they're ready to go right away. Get a veteran quarterback in there, like Russell Wilson, for example. I think the Falcons are a 12-win team next year, and I'm being honest about that. So I don't know if they're going to do that or draft a quarterback. I think preferably they'd want to get a young guy in there that they can get for hopefully a long, long time, especially if you draft a guy, you don't have to pay him as much if you were to go sign a guy like Kirk Cousins, for example. So that's what we're going to have the Falcons do. Now, I think number 8 is a little too high. I really like Michael Penix. I really like Bo Nix, but I just don't think those guys are top 10 worthy talents. So the Falcons, you're in an interesting spot here. You can trade down. I think Brock Bowers being on the board at number 8, I certainly think a team would be willing to trade up to acquire a Brock Bowers. Oh, look what we got here. We got the Bengals right here. They would certainly be willing to move up, I think, to replace possibly T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd leaving. Uh, I think they give the Falcons 2 first-round picks. I think that makes sense for the Falcons. Bengals move up to number 8, and they draft Brock Bowers. Like I said, you're probably going to lose some guys to free agency because you paid Burrow, you got to pay Chase. Brock Bowers in there with Joe Burrow. We just saw Sam Laporta dominate the NFL as a rookie because he went to a good situation with a good quarterback and a good offense. Brock Bowers with Joe Burrow next year. Are you kidding me? that could possibly be even more record breaking than what Laporta did this year. So I think teams are seeing the value now of just a young tight end getting in there right away. I think I think the Bengals and Bowers, that's just, man, that's scary. That is scary good if it were to actually happen. Bears at 9. Well, usually I've had the Bears trading down to a point because the Bears actually won some games at the end, right? So I've had them trading down to a spot where they can get either Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not an option here. However, I think Rome Odunze has played himself into the top 10 with his size and speed combination. You'd think as a 6'3", 210-pound receiver that he's only good on the outside, jump balls, contested catches, which he's amazing at, by the way. But they get him the ball in space so often, let him run after the catch. He's shifty for his size. I think he's more than worthy of being a top 10 pick. And if you're the Bears, getting that guy next to DJ Moore, letting DJ Moore work out the slot a little more often, having a guy for Justin Fields to just throw the ball up to in one-on-one contested situations, I'm talking myself into it. We got Rome Odunze at 9 for the Bears. That's a great pick for them. The Chargers moving down. What do you do here if you're the Chargers? Well, you could say that actually, I'm thinking about this now. What did I have them going with? I map out these mock drafts already beforehand. Let me go look at this real quick. Okay. We got the Chargers going cornerback here. Um, and we're gonna go with the best cornerback off the boards, I think, Nate Wiggins. I've said a lot about Nate Wiggins. I think I've even had him going to the Chargers before. He is the future of the NFL. Size, long wingspan, speed, can run with anybody. Great cover skills. He gets after it, which I like. He's a big effort guy. You know, he plays through the whistle with physicality, blows up plays in the run game. I just think Nate Wiggins has all the traits. You know, there's not really a cornerback who I think would have a top 10 grade in this class, but there's a lot of guys who I think could easily go in the top 15. Nate Wiggins is one of them. I'm not sure if there's a clear number one corner in this class, but Nate Wiggins more than capable of being the first one off the board. I think the Chargers there, you know, the J.C. Jackson experiment failed. Michael Davis didn't have as good of a year. They need a corner out there. Nate Wiggins would fit in well, in my opinion. Vikings at 11. This is going to be pass rush, in my opinion. Quarterback would be nice. It would be very, very nice. But honestly, I think the Vikings are going to bring back Kirk. You saw how good he was this. You could argue that Kirk, before the injury, was playing the best out of any quarterback in the entire NFL, and that's not an exaggeration. So I think they realize how open their division is, especially in the conference as a whole. If they get a healthy Kirk in there with Jefferson, Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, then I think the Vikings would be more than willing to bring him back and see how that goes. So I don't think quarterback's really on the board here. So we're going to go pass rush here. Get Danielle Hunter or Danielle Hunter some help. You may say DJ Wanham. I don't know if he's going to be back next year, and he's certainly not a Dallas Turner, who I think is going to be the first pass rusher off the board. Um, he may not be the best right now. I think that still goes to the guy I'm going to give the Bears right here at number 12, Liatu Lach. I'll talk about both these guys back to back. Um, Bears here trading down with the Broncos, take Liatu Latu. Dallas Turner, I think, is the most athletically gifted guy. Of course, he plays at Alabama, right? I think when he goes to the combine, you're going to see that he is going to be like what's his name? Nolan Smith from last year. A guy like that that just blows you away. But I don't think he's as raw of a prospect as a guy like Nolan Smith. I think he dominated this year at Alabama. I think everybody saw that, led the country in pressures. If he didn't, he was damn close. He was amazing this season. Um, and Liatu Latu, I think, is the most gifted pass rusher out of anybody in the entire class. The best with his hands, can use power and speed. I say it every draft video. He had to medically retire due to some health issues, but he's back. He's healthy now. But I'm sure, just based off talent, the guy's a top 5 pick. But I'm sure due to his health concerns, he will slide down the board for a couple of teams. Raiders at 13. Raiders are just going to take a quarterback here. They're going to go with a sensationalized pick. Who is that? It's going to be Michael Penix. It's going to be the guy that made it all the way to the national championship game. People try and say that the national championship game is going to hurt his stock. It's not going to hurt his stock, guys. He's still going to be a first round pick. Um, the Raiders are just desperate. If you think Aiden O'Connell's the guy next season, I don't know what to tell you. You could try and convince me that you could bring in a veteran like Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins. I would certainly believe that. But to say that they're going to roll with O'Connell next year, I just don't believe that whatsoever. I think they have a lot of holes they could fill, but none more pressing than quarterback. If you're sitting there at 13 and Penix and Nix are available, it's hard for me to believe that the Raiders are going to pass on one of those guys. The Saints at 14. This is gonna be tackle for me. And I'm actually gonna go back on something I said in a previous mock draft video. Amarius Mims, I said I said I was not going to include him because I thought he was going to return to Georgia, but he opted out of their bowl game against Florida State, which makes me believe, if he was a guy that's going to come back and play next year, why would you not play in the bowl game against Florida State? So that leads me to believe that Amarius Mims is going to declare for the draft. Maybe he has already. I don't even know. And I think if he does, being as physically gifted as he is going to be a top 20 pick. A lot of teams need tackle, the Saints being one of them. They need to do a better job protecting Derek Carr. I don't think quarterback's in play. I think Carr played well enough. The offensive coordinator is awful. Head coach isn't good. Um, Michael Thomas was hurt all year. Kamara missed several games. It's like Derek Carr had to deal with a lot this season. I think the final product, he won 9 games. I think, the Saints, they're never happy, to be honest, with their quarterback play since Drew Brees left, but I think Derek Carr is good enough. Protect him better and see what happens. Colts at 15, it's going to be Cooper DeJean. The Colts last year, they drafted Juju Brents. They have shown us a tendency of just drafting the most athletic freaks with every time they get up to draft. And you may laugh when you say white cornerback, athletic freak, but it's the truth. Cooper DeJean uh, is a gym freak. He is going to give you so much versatility in the secondary. I've said this before, I'll say it again. He can play nickel, boundary, free safety, strong safety. He makes plays as a defender that help you more than you would think. He's also going to be a monster in kick and punt returns. He gives you so much that you wouldn't necessarily think a rookie does. So I just think any DC would love to have Cooper DeJean on their team, and I would actually want him on the Seahawks if I was one pick later, but we do not get him. I'm not going to overthink this pick. I think offensive line would be marvelous here. I'd love to get a guy like Fuaga or Troy Fatanu out of Washington. However, the Seahawks have proven to me time and time again that our run defense is embarrassing. Pete Carroll's gone. All the coordinators are going to be gone. We're completely rebuilding the coaching staff. With that being said, we need a young guy up the middle. Jerron Reed was good this year. Jermont Jones played a big impact, but these guys are not helping us stuff the run. We need a guy like Johnny Newton, kind of an undersized defensive tackle, if I'm being honest with you. But we've seen that be the trend. Kalijah Cansey, Aaron Donald, guys like that who get pressure quickly up the middle and blow up the run game. I think we need to, as the Seahawks, I'm saying we, the Seahawks, need to really start putting an emphasis on getting back to stuffing the run, forcing takeaways on defense. And I think Johnny Newton, while it may be a boring pick, would greatly help. Would greatly help us, doing that moving forward. The Jaguars have to protect Trevor Lawrence. I think that's the pick here. I'm not going to overthink. It's going to be Talisi Fuaga. Trevor was hurt this year. That's why he played so awful the second half of the year. He was bad second half of the season. That's why they missed the playoffs. Fuaga, I think he can play either tackle spot, or if you wanted to just kick him into guard and have him be a dominant run blocking, pass blocking offensive guard, you can do that too. At the bare minimum, he provides you versatility, a swing tackle, can get in there right away. But he's a mauler in the run game, and I think the Jaguars, if you're serious about protecting Trevor and keeping him upright and healthy, you have to go offensive line with his first pick. And Fuaga is the best guy on the board. Falcons at 18. I said it earlier, they're desperate for a quarterback. That's the reason they traded down to make drafting a guy like Bo Nix more favorable. Bo Nix does a lot of things very well. He is sneaky athletic. I know you say that about white quarterback, right? But he uses his legs not only to extend plays and get out of the pocket and make throws, but he is athletic and he uses his legs to pick up first downs, to pick up big plays in the run games. Even better than the guy like Desmond Ridder, who you think is his greatest strength is his legs. I think Bo Nix is more athletic than a Desmond Ridder. I think his decision making and his quickness with his reads. He at Oregon, they got the ball to their best players quickly. That's what you do in the NFL. That's what the Falcons need. Get the ball to Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London quickly. I don't know if there's a better quarterback in the entire class that fits what the Falcons want to do than Bo Nix. I think it's a match made in heaven. I think he'd come in there and take them to the playoffs day one as a 10-win team. Not many people would talk about it because it might be a little boring, but Bo Nix is a perfect fit for the Falcons here in the middle of the first round. Packers at 19. This is going to be offensive tackle. Uh, David Bakhtiari is not even on the team anymore, really. They need help on the O-line. We found out now that Jordan Love is that guy. You have to now commit to protecting him. J.C. Latham, the best tackle prospect left on the board. The tackle class is kind of divided into thirds, if you will. There's the top guys, the guys who could go in the top five, or Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu. Then you got a lot of guys who I think are capable of going between 10 and 20. That's the guys like Marius Mims, Talisi Fuaga, and J.C. Latham. And you got a lot of guys who could sneak into the later of the first round in the 20s, but I just don't think they're capable of going in the top 20 or 25 really. Buccaneers at 20. We're going to have Jared Verse here. Keep him in state. I've said it before. The Buccaneers' pass defense is god awful. So you can either improve that one or two ways. You can draft a cornerback, or you could draft pass rush to get after the quarterback faster. I think they're going to do Jared Verse. They nailed it last year in the draft. They got Yaya Diaby and Kalijah Kancey in the same draft class. Both those guys look great. Strike while the iron's hot. They know how to draft defensive linemen. Draft another one. Jared Verse out of Florida State. Keep him in state. The eventual Shaquille Barrett replacement. Get back to just destroying quarterbacks as a defensive line in Tampa Bay. I think that'll help out the whole team, especially the secondary, giving them less time to have to cover receivers. I just like that pick for the Buccaneers at 20. It's good value in Jared Verse. 21, the Cardinals' first pick went Marvin Harrison Jr. The Cardinals' secondary this season, especially the cornerbacks, was awful. It might have been the worst cornerback room in the NFL. They had undrafted rookies starting. They had sixth round rookies starting. Like, it was bad, and they got cooked often as a result. You got a lot of options here. I'm going to go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. A lot of things I said about Nate Wiggins, rinse and repeat, same about Kool-Aid. The perfect body for a corner nowadays. He's not going to blow you away with any individual, you know, athletics, what's the word? Like, his combine stats aren't going to blow you away. But if you watch him on tape, he's always where he needs to be. He makes so many plays in coverage, one-on-one against the other team's best player. That's the most impressive thing. And the Cardinals, they need anybody. There's probably 20 corners in this draft that could start for the Cardinals. I'm being honest. And Kool-Aid being arguably the best, to get him at 21, this is an A+ draft for the Cardinals so far, to get Marvin Kool-Aid with your first two picks. Rams at 22, their secondary also needs some help, especially at cornerback. Let's go back-to-back Alabama corners. Terrion Arnold has soared up draft boards. At first, he had guys like Josh Newton and Kalen King going in the top 20 and 25, but Terrion Arnold playing like an All-American this season, he's the more physical guy. Kool-Aid kind of sits back in coverage. Terrion Arnold gets up near the line of scrimmage. He makes plays. He's aggressive. He's physical. So I just think, he's played his way into the top 25 of the draft. Rams with a big need at cornerback. I think Terrion Arnold makes too much sense for the Rams at 22. Steelers at 23. You're going to make a case here, the Steelers taking cornerback as well. However, I would say offensive line is also a need. However, I forgot what I gave the Steelers up there. One second. Let's go check what I gave the Steelers up there. It's between offensive line and quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. And I gave them. Well, I gave them. Oh, shit. What did I mess up? Oh, damn, I missed my shit. Okay. It's not what I thought I was going to do earlier. Okay. Well, things happen. Things change quickly. Who would I give the Steelers in this situation? This is interesting. I would usually give them cornerback. There are some options. You have Kalen King, you got Kamari Lassiter, you got Quinyon Mitchell, Josh Newton. Offensive line, I don't really see anybody at 23 that makes that much sense to me. Troy Fautanu possibly. I'm gonna give him Graham Barton. Graham Barton out of Duke. I think he has the upside to play tackle. You got Broderick Jones last year. I mean, the offense is not where it needs to be, right? You fired Matt Canada. Let's pick at the guy who knows, but it starts with the line. Get Najee going, get Jalen Warren going, and it makes the pass game that much easier. Um, I think Graham Barton as the future right tackle, it makes sense for the Steelers. It's good value at 23. Don't overthink it if you're the Steelers here. Don't get too cute with your pick. Dolphins at 24. This is going to be offensive line. It's going to be Troy Fautanu out of Washington. Uh, does he have potential as a future NFL left tackle? I don't think so. Possibly a right tackle, but if nothing else, put him in the interior of the offensive line. Play him at guard for the first year or two. Help him hone his skills, and possibly in 2 or 3 years, you got a starting right tackle. And I think he's going to be good. He was great at Washington this year, one of the highest rated offensive linemen in the whole country. Problem with him, short arms. People feel a certain type of way about that in the NFL. It's important, you know. You got to get your hands and pass rushers on the edge, but I think he has the traits, the toughness, everything you need to play right tackle. We'll see how highly people think of him come draft time. Eagles at 25. This is also going to be tackle for me. Um, yeah, they're the Eagles are just a weird team. I mean, they started off 10-1. They just completely fell apart. But it has to be tackle here. Jordan Morgan, I think, has made a very good impression on a lot of people this year. He's just one of the guys. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like he is the guy who has played good enough to this point. Not a lot of people have a first round grade on, but it's such a tackle heavy or a tackle needy draft. A lot of teams are going to need offensive line here. I think Jordan Morgan is going to get pushed up maybe a little higher than he should be, but I think 25 to the Eagles, one of the best offensive line coaches and just offensive line groups in the league, certainly would help him develop a little quicker than normal. And I think he could be a right tackle for the Eagles moving forward. Chiefs at 26, it has to be a receiver. If you don't have the Chiefs going receiver in the first round, I'm not even going to listen to you. It's the biggest knee in the whole team. Brian Thomas is he's a bad man. He gets open downfield. He makes those plays. He makes the big plays. His body control to bring in so many. That's why he caught so many touchdowns. He had like 17 touchdowns this year. His body control when you get in the red zone. He can work short. You can get him the ball, watch him run after catch, or he could take the top off the defense. He's an exciting weapon. And the Chiefs there, I don't even want to think about if Mahomes got a guy like Brian Thomas in the room. It would be dangerous in Kansas City. Texans at 27 has to be cornerback here. Derek Stingley played amazing, but he needs some help on the other side. We're going to go Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. He is a guy who certain guys have risen. Certain guys like Terrion Arnold have jumped up in the top 25. Certain guys like Kalen King, Josh Newton have kind of slipped into second round projections, but Kamari Lassiter has been the guy. Start of the season, people are thinking late first round. This point in the season, I'm thinking late first round for a guy like Kamari Lassiter. He had a solid year, not a great year, but he has the size, the traits, everything you need. I think he's going to be a first round player. Lions at 28. I typically go cornerback for the Lions. So I'm going to do here as well. Cam Sutton's not enough. I think he needs some more help. It would have been great if you didn't trade away Jeff Okudah for nothing, but they need help at the opposite corner spot. We're going to go Quinyon Mitchell. I don't know if Toledo is in Michigan. I think it is, though. Quinyon Mitchell won the MAC Defensive Player of the Year, I think, or at least he was the best DB in the entire MAC conference. He is a guy that takes a lot of chances. He makes a lot of plays because of that. He gives up a lot of plays. He's an aggressive player. Get in your face. That's what you get coming from a smaller school. Got to earn your name that way, earn your stripes. But I think Mitchell has played himself into the first round. I think a team like the Lions is just a great fit for him with the way they play, the physicality. It's a good fit for the Lions at 28. Bills at 29 has to be receiver, in my opinion. Who else but a guy who has fallen? How the mighty have fallen just because the quarterback got hurt. He wasn't used as much. Keon Coleman was a top 5 pick at one point projected, above Malik Neighbors, above all these guys. Now he falls to 29. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he goes to a team like the Chiefs, or the Bengals or something like that. But
man, if you're a team like the Bills or the Cowboys and you get your hands on Keon Coleman down at the end of the first round, that is a steal of a pick. I've mocked him to the Bills before. I'm going to say the same thing. Give Josh Allen a deep threat downfield that can win jump balls. You know Josh Allen likes to play backyard football. Keon Coleman is a great partner if that's what you want to do. Cowboys at 30. This is going to be receiver as well. I think they don't really have that many needs. This is more of a luxury pick if you ask me. And I'm actually going to go a guy. I've been giving them the Texas guys all year. Troy Franklin is one of the best receivers in the whole country. He has the size and the speed to play that left boundary and make all types of plays down the field. He just gets open, man. And I think CD in Dallas is working more and more as a slot receiver. Give them a guy on the outside. You get levels to this thing. You're not paying Troy Franklin a lot of money. I think Troy Franklin could be a 1,000-yard receiver year one and make pennies as a 30th overall pick. So I think it would be a dynamic receiver room in Dallas if they decide to go receiver in round one. But I think it has to be a boundary receiver so it allows CD to stay inside and work more freely with more space. Niners at 31. This is going to be tackle as well. I think cornerback, you can make a case, but tackle, I think, is the bigger need for them. Just long-term replacement for I forgot, Trent Williams. Tyler Guyton is a guy who I think he has not. I think the thing people say about Tyler Guyton is that the best football was in front of him. He is a guy who has not shown the first round skill so far at Oklahoma, but he has the traits that you want to see that can be developed and honed in the NFL. And eventually, he's a guy who turns into this Pro Bowl caliber tackle after the right amount of experience and mentorship at the NFL level. Ravens at 32. There's a lot of good players on the board here. Where do the Ravens go? I think it has to be receiver to give Lamar a weapon. They got Zay Flowers already to work the underneath. I think you need a bigger guy to take the top off of defense, and A.D. Mitchell is that guy. He worked so many deep plays this year at Texas. He has years of experience, even going back to Georgia. This guy gets big-time touchdowns, the biggest of games. I think A.D. Mitchell to the Ravens, give Lamar 2 young receivers, and watch the fireworks take place. Man, that was a long video. My mic died halfway fucking through. A lot of shit there, man. I'm gonna get back more active, talking about the NFL as well, not just college football now that the season's over. I got some more videos to do before I get into just my really, really heavy draft content. But thank you for watching. Leave a like if you're still here, if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.